Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. The beta wipe and patch has happened for Hearthstone. I thought I'd do a little bit of a roundup, showing you exactly what has occurred. So, if you're going to Hearthstone now and you've played it previously, you'll have to do the tutorial again. No real changes there as far as I can tell. And as you can see down the bottom, this is the amount of gold that I was given for all of the money that I've put into the game so far. So, a decent amount is what I would say there. So, enough to get me into arenas for like the next 100 years. Anyway, let's have a look and see what's actually going on with this. The most significant changes have been done to the cards, but that would not, of course, be the only thing that they've been done to. So, first thing to bear in mind is that your max level is now 60, which means that you can go all the way up to that and acquire gold basic minions at high experience levels, which is a nice little way of getting a few extra gold cards for your deck. I believe at level 50, which was the previous max, you could also unlock a new portrait for your hero. Not sure if that's been implemented yet. Obviously all the levels have been wiped, but I know some people got to that rank prior to the wipe and didn't get their portrait, so I imagine it's going to be in there eventually. Other important changes: arenas now give more gold at 5 and 6 arena wins, which is a fantastic change indeed, and on the gold front, you actually get a bunch more from normal play as well. Honestly, the amount you were given from regular play outside of quests was terrible. It used to be 5 gold per 5 wins, now it's 10 gold per 3, which is much, much better. So that means 30 wins gets you a pack, and of course you can do your daily quests, and you can probably earn a pack a day very, very easily without even having to do too much. So bear in mind that that also synergizes with a lot of the stuff. Wins are some of the frequent conditions of a lot of the quests as well. So as a direct result, you will earn extra gold on top of that. So that's pretty good. Happy with that. If you get 9 wins, which is Grandmaster in Arena, you're now guaranteed an extra pack or a golden card, which is pretty awesome considering you didn't really get rewarded that well, and you could just get a heap of dust, which is pretty useless to Arena players. I'm glad that Arena will now be giving less dust and more cards, which is a change there. There's a few minor things that have been changed as well, like the animation speed of Secrets and Fatigue, which is good because that animation speeds actually waste time, so you can get screwed over pretty badly by that, especially if, say, a Nozdormu gets played. They've changed spell power to spell damage just to make sure you don't think it applies to heals, which is good. Heroes can also be unlocked in any mode, that being play, arena, and practice, which is always nice. Admittedly, you can't even get into Arena anyway to do that, so I'm not really sure why that change would be there. You don't have to go through practice mode for everything, which is not too bad. And they've also improved the chat mechanism with your friends and things like that, but they have not put chat into the main game. The last thing for those of you who do quests a lot, you can now choose from one of 2 classes to do the quest with, which means it's significantly easier to actually pull off that quest, so that's pretty damn cool. Now, before I look at the cards specifically, they've changed the crafting interface, and I'd actually like to show you that. Crafting interface was not ideal. It took me a little bit of time initially when I first got the beta to figure out what the hell was going on. Now it's actually got a separate crafting mode button. So this is obviously default collection. This is all of the default cards. For some reason, it's given me 4 Reckless Rocketeers, which is a little bit of a mistake because you can't actually use that many. A little bit strange. But if we go to crafting mode, you'll notice that everything is now changed. Select a card to start crafting, spend arcane dust on it, so you're not getting mixed up between the normal interface and the crafting interface. You can also filter to show only golden cards and include soulbound cards or not. So those are usually basics, and occasionally they are things that you acquire via other means, like the Captain's Parrot and things like that. Alright. So, aside from that, the crafting should be relatively simple, I believe. So, if we wanted to craft a wisp, we could, well, we should be able to do that, but I don't actually have any dust, so I'm not going to be able to craft anything up to this point. But, yeah, that's the crafting menu. It's not especially difficult to understand. It's a little bit easier, a little bit better laid out than the original, which is not too shabby. And we will, in fact, be using this a lot to actually go through the cards and look at the buffs and nerfs, which is the main subject of this particular video. Since, of course, I don't have any cards anymore, which is a sad thing indeed. Bit pricey, isn't it? Yep, 3,200 dust for a gold Grommash Hellscream. That's pretty standard. I don't believe there's anything else as far as I know. There's a couple of minor graphical things that have been changed, like the fact that the I believe it's the snake, the Emperor Cobra, now has like a venom effect on him, and there's a effect which allows you to see that you got the coin. Makes it a little bit more obvious for new players because the coin isn't even explained in the tutorial at all. So in the first few matches when I played, I thought the coin was a card, and it's like, oh, I better put a couple more of those in my deck. It's like, yeah, that was pretty silly. But yeah, they don't explain that all that well. So, let's go through the buffs and nerfs, shall we? That, I think, is going to be the main meat of this particular discussion, and rightfully so. So, we'll start with the neutral cards. Yes, it does, Chris. Yes, it very, very much does, but such is the way of things, I'm afraid. Now, what's kind of strange here is that the search box has disappeared. That's a little annoying. I hope they changed that. In fact, doesn't it appear to be... Where is the search box? Where did they... Oh, wow. I think they got rid of the search box. That is not a very smart thing. I wonder if under deck it'll actually display it. Nope. The search box is gone. Wow, actually the game's locked up. I think they messed something up pretty badly here. Yep. Wow, losing the search box is huge. That definitely needs to be fixed. When I clicked new deck, incidentally, the entire game just crashed. So I have a feeling this was not fully tested. Oh dear. Alright, I'm going to have to reload the game to have a look at these cards. Well, this is going to be significantly more difficult without the search box, but we'll go with it anyway. So, for some reason, I can't even find the Captain's Parrot. I don't know where the ball's that one. I think it's because it's a soulbound card, so that's probably where it disappeared to. But we'll start first by looking at the buffs and the nerfs and the changes to the regular cards. Oh, can't even find him. I don't know where he's gone. That is... Oh, there he is. There we go. Captain's Parrot. So, first nerf, in fact, was to Captain's Parrot, surprisingly enough. That used to be a 1-2. Now it is a 1-1. Put a random pirate from your deck into your hand. I can't really imagine why they thought that was overpowered, but, I mean, I guess it would be a 1-2 plus specific card draw. Even then, though, that doesn't seem to be too broken, considering you think about the Novice Engineer as a 2-cost 1-2 that does that, so I'm not really sure what their justification behind that one was, but hey, they seem to have done it anyway, so there you go. Alright, I'll include the soulbound cards as well, actually, considering that there are definitely some changes to some default stuff. So, Mana Wraith is the next thing on the list. This was considered to be a pretty bad card for the most part, very situational, and it's now a 2-2, used to be a 1-3. So, a little bit of a change. I would say it's a little bit of a better card now as a direct result of that. I feel a 2-2 is a better choice than a 1-3. Early game, you know, it could definitely screw over a lot of rushdown-based decks. So I have a feeling that it could see some play in Constructed, perhaps. I wouldn't necessarily pull it in an arena, because you don't know what the hell you're going to be facing. Next one is the Injured Blade Master. Now, this is a 4-cost card. No, actually, never mind. It's a 3-cost card, and it is a 4-7. Yeah? So, this has been changed a little bit, because it used to be a 3-7. Got buffed slightly. Very, very slightly. It's still a kind of a weird card, honestly. It synergizes quite well with Priest decks with something like a Northshire Cleric, for instance, which incidentally got buffed, by the way. So there are some circumstances where this can work pretty well, but it is a bit of a niche card, and you've got to construct your deck around the idea that you have it. By default, I wouldn't exactly call it amazing. Not bad in a Shaman deck, especially if you've got a healing totem down, things like that. That could work pretty well. You can get a decent amount of value out of it. 4 attack for 3 cost is not bad, especially if you have a way of getting that cost, that actual health back. If you don't, though, I wouldn't put that in at all. Change to Lorewalker Cho, which is very, very saddening indeed. I am depressed by that. Lorewalker Cho is now a 0-4. Used to be a 1-4. Lorewalker Cho got nerfed, which is kind of sad. It was pretty good, I gotta say. Lorewalker Cho for 1-4. As long as you didn't have a lot of spells that you wanted to play very early on in the game, it was actually a pretty damn powerful card, if you think about it. Think about what else you get for that. A Frostwolf Grunt for 2-2, a Northshire, whatever, Goldshire Guardsman, or whatever the balls it is for 1-2 for 1. It's not bad. I mean, 5 stats for 2 cost is not awful. Admittedly, you do get that on a lot of others, but it's a surprisingly high amount of health that you got on this. Compare it to, say, a 0-4 defender or something like that. I guess they thought it was a little bit too powerful. You could trade it effectively. Like, you could kill off at least 2 early creatures with it, which did mean it was pretty good, so maybe they thought that. Alright, going up to the more extreme end, we're going to be looking at the Beast, which is, I believe, a 6 cost. It used to be a 6 cost. Is it still? Where'd it go? It's disappeared. Is it? Oh, did they increase the cost of that? Perhaps they did. Because that used to be a 6 cost. No, it's actually vanished entirely. Oh, there it is. There we go. It is a 6 cost. Must be bloody blind. So this used to be a 10-6, which was a slightly buffed Core Hound with a bad death rattle, yeah? So that was the nature of that legendary. It's now a 9-7. A little bit different. That is 2 health higher than a Core Hound. That's a Core Hound. You can get that by default. It's 9-5. I don't view it as a very good creature, because for 7 cost, it can be killed very easily. The Beast now is 9-7, which I would say is actually better. I would happily have that extra 1 health versus the extra 1 damage. Because what use is 10 damage, really, that 9 won't do? I mean, that's going to kill pretty much anything. And anything that won't die to 9 damage is not going to die to 10 anyway. You're talking about the dragons with 12 health and things like that. So I think that's a pretty good change for the Beast, honestly. That's pretty nice. It means the Beast is slightly less easy to kill. So it's pretty good if you happen to play it against, let's say, a Mage, for instance, who is going to throw a fireball at it. It was just a straight 4-6 removal. Now, if you wanted to remove it, you'd have to fireball and you'd have to fire blast at the same target. So it's a little bit better in terms of its mana trading. Still not the best card in the world, especially not against Mage decks, though. Very, very easy to remove, a little bit too easy, and it gives a benefit to your opponent. So, not too great. Unless, of course, you silence it. Alright. A little strange nerf here, actually. Just going down the list. This is from the list on r/Hearthstone, by the way, so big thanks to them for compiling this one. Bit of a strange change in the form of the Dalaran Mage, which is all the way back here. Used to be a 2-4, now it's a 1-4. A little bit of a nerf to the Dalaran Mage. That's a little odd. Maybe they just thought it was a little bit too cost-effective for 3 and the spell damage. Possibly. But, I mean, now at this point, I'm almost saying to myself, well, with that nerf, there's really no point in getting it over, say, an Ogre Magi, which is like a 4-4. Unless they nerfed that as well. No, they didn't. I mean, I would take an Ogre Magi over that any day of the week. Like, for 1 more mana, you get 3 more attack. That seems way more useful now than that. So, personally, I probably wouldn't even take a Dalaran Mage anymore. Now, the repair bot for Mechatalk, he actually got changed. So, it used to be that at the end of your turn, you restore 3 health to all characters, and it was 0-5. Now it's a 0-3, restore 6 health to a damaged character. So that's a little interesting. Very interesting indeed. A little bit less like a Lightwell now. Now, probably one of the biggest nerfs in the neutral side of things has got to be the Twilight Drake. It's a 4-1, gain +1 health for each card in your hand. Now, this used to be gain +1/+1 for every card in the hand, yeah? That was the battle cry. And it meant these kind of silly turn 2, well, not turn 2 plays, but turn 4 plays where you went second with the coin, where you could play like a 9-9 Drake, which was a little silly, I've got to say. So they've changed that. The Drake's been nerfed pretty badly, so it's never going to go above 4 health. It's still going to be a pain in the ass to remove, but it's not going to be swinging for 9 every turn, so that's probably for the best. Twilight Drake was a little bit of a silly gimmick that needed to be dealt with. A really bad nerf as well for those of you who happen to like Captain Greenskin, by the way, who I viewed as a pretty decent legendary in a lot of decks. Now I think it's terrible. 5 for 5/4 battle cries give you weapon +1/+1. That is kind of awful. And the reason it's kind of awful is that you've just slapped on an upgrade, but it's even it's a lesser upgrade card, right? And you've put it on a legendary. This used to be whenever you attack with your hero, you gain a card, which was really good, situationally. I mean, usually Greenskin would get killed pretty quickly, but that was a pretty good card. Now it's actually trash as far as I'm concerned. There are some combos. You could play this with a Gorehowl, for instance, to buff up the Gorehowl, but at the end of the day, you don't have to do that. You know, you have the card upgrade in the Warrior deck. The only benefit I can really see with this is that it is a neutral card, meaning that you can use this on something like a True Silver Champion, and that might be pretty decent. I mean, that's then swinging for 5, and you've got 3 swings with it rather than 2. I could see that being marginally useful, but for the most part, I don't think this is a very good card anymore. That's my personal opinion on it anyway. I think it was much better before, and that's probably why they nerfed it. Light Warden. It's actually been buffed heavily, I've got to say. If we go all the way back here, Light Warden, if I recall correctly, was a... Yeah, it was a one-coster. Whenever a character is healed, gain +2 attack. That is actually really good. Really good. If you compare that to, say, Mana Addict, which is, if I recall correctly, a 2-cost? Am I right there? Yeah. That's your Mana Addict. Gain +2 attack this turn from a spellcast, 1/3. I would, under all circumstances, throw that card now in a priest deck. There's no question about that. That is actually an indirect priest buff, in my opinion. That's a very strong card. That's a permanent gain now. So, you toss that one out, and there's a heal following that one up. You've then got yourself a 3/2. You get yourself a 5/2. It'll combo very nicely with other cards as well. That's good. Hell, combo that with something like a Holy Nova. Yeah, that would be pretty damn potent. Hell, you could even throw this out in kind of a weenie deck with a Shaman. Throw down that healing totem. Whenever a character is healed, gain +2 attack. This would buff up really fast, really quickly. That could get rapidly out of control. Yeah, that's a nice card now, I think. It's really good. Another big nerf is to one of the more popular cards here. Like, this is pretty much a tier 1 arena card, or at least it was. Pint-Sized Summoner used to reduce the cost of your first minion by 2 every turn. Now it's 1. Still decent, but nowhere near as ridiculously powerful as it used to be. And it was kind of silly. You could, if you went second in an arena, you could coin Summoner, and then turn 2, you could play like a 4-coster, like a Tazdingo, for instance, which was just silly. It also allowed for some decent-ish Twilight Drake plays. Not amazing, because you had to play cards before it, but yeah, you could really break the tempo of the game with that one. Now it's a little bit less ridiculous. I still say it's a pretty good pick, but it's not as insane as it was before. Like, it was a guaranteed, you should pick this under all circumstances kind of card. Sun Fury Protector. This is arguably a buff to this one, actually. If we have a look at Sun Fury Protector, what you'll see is that now it gives adjacent minions taunt. So what this is, it's now a weaker Defender of Argus. What it used to do is give every minion that wasn't Sun Fury Protector on your side taunt. Arguably, that was bad. Yeah, because having a lot of taunt creatures means that your opponent has way more choices to attack you directly. Basically, when everyone has taunt, essentially nobody does. So the only thing behind it was a Sun Fury Protector. It could be good in some circumstances. If you were going to take a lot of rushdown damage and you needed to avoid that, it was okay. But I think this makes it a more usable card. Yeah? Before, it was way too situational and could actually get important minions killed. Now it's a little better. So you have to decide whether or not you want to take Defender of Argus, which if I recall correctly is a 4-cost, which gives it +1/+1 and taunt, or whether you want to take this cheaper option here. So I don't think that's too bad. That, I say, is a buff, I feel, to Sun Fury. Frostwolf Warlord, everyone's favorite snowballing bastard. Now, this one has been changed, and now it's a battle cry. So this is a direct nerf. Gain +1/+1 for each other friendly minion on the battlefield. I don't know if it's actually, I don't think that's necessarily true. It could be seen as a nerf. I think for the most part it is a nerf. Because what you could do on the turn after that is you could dump down that Frostwolf Warlord and then play a bunch of weenies on the turn after that. Yeah. So you could play it earlier when you didn't have a huge amount of mana. Now you can't do that because it only applies when it first enters the field. So I say it's more of a nerf than anything else. The flip side of it is if you play this in a position of dominance, it's even better because then you can sack the creatures and this guy still maintains those buffs, whereas before he would actually drop them. I think it makes it a little bit of a less interesting card, though. I liked the mechanic. I thought it was fairly unique, and I'm a bit disappointed to see it go. Alright. Other changes, they're not really all that important. Basically, they've changed a couple of rareness factors for some things. Flesh-Eating Ghoul is now a common instead of a rare, and Questing Adventurer is now a rare instead of a common, which I think is right. I mean, the Questing Adventurer effect is very unusual, so I feel that it probably should have been a rare to begin with. But again, those shouldn't really matter all that much. It might just make it a little bit more of a pain in the ass to actually get them if you're missing them already. So, Flesh-Eating Ghoul and Questing Adventurer are not default cards, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to acquire them or craft them in standard play. Alright, let's look at rogues first, because these guys actually got nerfed, and thank God for that. There were some pretty severe nerfs, the biggest one being to the hero power, in my opinion. So now the hero power has been flat out nerfed. You cannot use that hero power to buff the currently equipped weapon. So you can still use it to get a dagger, but you can't buff that dagger. Now, some people would say that's really bad and makes a rogue a pretty bad class. I don't necessarily agree. You still get a dagger that you can swing twice for 2 mana, which is pretty decent value regardless. But you can't use that power to, say, buff a different weapon. And frankly, it's still good to be able to pull a Wicked Knife, especially if you combo it with Deadly Poison. You can do a lot more damage than you would expect, just not huge amounts. This indirectly also nerfs attacks like Blade Flurry, which is an interesting little thing to consider. Now, I think everyone was talking about this card, Defias Ringleader. So this is slightly weaker now. They actually nerfed the Ringleader, not the Defias Bandit. It's still the same, except it's 1 less health. So it's a little bit easier to get rid of. Like, on turn 1, a 3 health creature is a little awkward to kill. Yeah, I've got to say, that's an awkward number. So this is a little bit nerfed. I'll have to see if this is enough. What I don't think they've done yet is change the nature of the coin. You can still coin Defias, yeah? Because that counts as playing a card for the combo. I still think perhaps they shouldn't allow you to do that, because that's what really makes that combo powerful. Later on in the game, it doesn't really matter so much, but early on, if a rogue goes second, you can still coin Defias on turn 1, which is probably the most powerful opening play in the game, especially now Pint-Sized Summon has been nixed. Alright. So, some of the changes. Shiv has been changed to 2 mana instead of 1. That's actually quite significant, I feel. Admittedly, for 1 mana, 1 damage, and a card draw, especially considering that gets buffed by spell power, is pretty damn good. Now, it's a little less of an attractive prospect. It's not a bad card, because you still get a card out of it, but it's a little bit more costly. So, that's not bad. So, you won't necessarily see, say, a turn 1 play where you play a 1 health minion and then it just gets shivved and the other guy gets a card and you feel horrible because he's just gained a card advantage from that. So it's a little less awful. Buffs, actually, for the rogue are definitely not in sight. Things like Conceal used to be free. Now they're not. 1 cost for Conceal now. Still does the same thing. Backstab, that's a pretty significant nerf. Deal 2 damage to an undamaged minion. That's kind of a big deal. Way less powerful now. You usually use the backstab to, say, finish off a minion. You can't do that anymore. You can only do it to an undamaged minion, so that's a significantly weaker card. Headcrack, that now costs 3 mana instead of 2. It's an okay card. I like Headcrack. I think you can do a lot with it, especially in a spell power deck. You just keep consistently pummeling your opponent with it every turn. It's ideal in a low card situation. You can just keep attacking with it and keep getting it back as long as you can combo it. Edwin Van Cleef has actually been changed as well. He doesn't have stealth, which is actually a direct nerf, but they did buff his health and his attack just a little bit. I still think that taking the stealth away is definitely a bigger nerf than the buff to the health and mana. But yeah, they made a change there. And I think that was about it, actually. Yeah, the only other thing was the Patient Assassin, who is right there, and apparently they changed his visual in some way, but they certainly didn't change the card, so I guess there's just some little visual going on with him. Probably makes sense, because they did the same thing to the Emperor Cobra, who has a fairly similar effect to it. So there you go, those are the rogue nerfs. Not a single buff to be seen in sight for the rogue at all. Alright, let's go on to Hunter changes. Not too many, there's only 2 in fact. Hunter's Mark is now an ongoing effect, instead of it just being that turn. That's quite powerful, I would say. I liked Hunter's Mark in the first place because it's a 0 cost, and you can then trade pretty much any minion or like a basic attack in some way to get rid of a minion. I thought it was a really good pick. I always picked it in Arena and had good success with it. Now it's even better. It doesn't matter as much as you might think, considering you usually play Hunter's Mark when you want to trade out a weak minion for a strong minion, so you'll be ready to do it at that point. And since it's a 0 cost, you don't necessarily want to telegraph your intent. So it's not that useful a change, really. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's going to change the way it's played at all, but it's still a good card, in my opinion. And then we have, oh, Jen just got Edwin Van Cleef. She's opening packs, goddamn. Jeez. What? What's the listed? What the hell? She's buying packs, guys. We gotta stop her immediately. She's just got 2 legendaries in, like, 2 packs. That's ridiculous. As you can see, they've put a couple of toast notifications down the bottom there. I'm gonna start opening packs now, just to make sure. Alright, the other change to Hunters is a nerf, and that's to Scavenging Hyena. Now, it only triggers off your beasts. When a friendly beast dies, gain +2/+1. Which makes it a significantly weaker card. Because what you could do is you could play that and you could basically trade one of your beasts for one of his beasts and gain a double buff from that. So it's a lot weaker now. Still a very good card in my opinion, but it's... What on earth is this? All the legendaries. Oh, man. Yeah, so it's definitely not as good, certainly, but it's still a solid card. Alright, moving on to Warlock. Very few changes here as well. Just a couple of... Well, there's 1 buff and 1 ha. So, the buff is the Sacrificial Pact. That's now a 0-coster. So, you've now got 2 0-cost spells as the Warlock. Destroy a demon, restore 5 health to your hero. Generally speaking, not considered a good card. I don't think making it 0 mana is going to change that. Currently, I think it kills Jaraxxus, which is a little weird, but pretty sure that's not actually intentional. They might change that before launch. But yeah. Very situational card. Most cards that restore health to your hero are generally undervalued at the moment in the Hearthstone meta, and kind of rightfully so, but this is a little bit cheaper, so maybe some Warlocks will consider it. Especially if you combo it with Sense Demons, which, if you have a low demon deck and you're using Sense Demons to pull a specific demon, you're gonna pull stuff like Worthless Imps, which you could then sack for health, which is not too bad. Bear in mind, of course, if you're playing against a Warlock deck, this is pretty powerful, because you can destroy an opponent's demon with it. The only other change to Warlocks is to the Pit Lord. Now, the Pit Lord used to be kind of a crazy card that a lot of people wouldn't play because it usually killed you. It was a 7/5 with Battlecry deals 7 damage to your hero. Now it's a 5/6 deals 5 damage to you, so it's got a little bit more lastability. So this is now essentially a gigantic, tough Flame Imp. Before, it was just a suicidal, oh god, what is with all of this stuff? Good lord. I'm just gonna get crazy every time she opens a legendary. That's gonna happen. Anyway, it was a bit of a suicide card because it only had 5 health, which meant it was pretty easy to remove. Now it's got 6, which is a lot more difficult. It does a little bit less damage, but again, I think the longevity is a little bit more viable there. It makes it less vulnerable to big removals. A golden captain. Oh, jeez. How many cards did she buy? Jesus. Okay, so let's move on to Mage changes, shall we? So there's been a few. Sorcerer's Apprentice, that got buffed, actually, which is quite surprising. Wasn't necessarily expecting them to do that. It's now a 3/2 instead of a 2/2, so definitely a better card. Flat out. That's a good card. I think, honestly, it was a bit situational previously, because if you think about it, compare it to, say, the Knife Thrower, which is a 3/2 with the knife effect. Or the Ooze, for instance, which is a weapon destruction effect. Maybe that spells costing 1 less was not that valuable, especially when you couldn't keep the damn thing alive. Now I view it as a better card. Especially if you want to play it early game. It's not too bad. Biggest buff for Mages, gotta be Frostbolt. Now 2 mana instead of 3. That's actually crazy. Because now you can combo that with Ice Lance for a 3 mana, 7 damage combination. Very strong. I can also see a lot more earlier plays with Sorcerer's Apprentice now with this as well. I mean, god, Sorcerer's Apprentice gets us down to 1 mana. Like, basically, if you have 3 mana, you can play Sorcerer's Apprentice, then a Frostbolt. And then, I think, a free Ice Lance. Yeah, you could do that. That's nuts. That's some really powerful stuff going on right there. And the last change is, again, a buff to Mages, actually, and that's Mirror Image. Now it's 2 0/2 minions with Taunt for 1. Oh, god, that's infuriating. Oh, I don't want to go up against that. That's horrible. Admittedly, a lot of people didn't really like it before. It's like, oh, 2/0/1 minions for 1 and the use of a card. Not so good. And yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Considering you can get, if you think about it, you can get a 1/2, which actually will attack for that cost. So why would you use it? Now it's much, much better. Alright, let us move on to Shaman. Barely any changes. You might wonder why I haven't got to Paladin yet, because there isn't anything. Nothing has changed on the Paladin end whatsoever. Not a damn thing. So, we'll have a look at Shaman. So, a slight change to Hex. The Hex now makes a beast. Yep. The frog is now a beast. It didn't used to be. I actually pointed this one out, because it was obviously unintentional. So, This is kind of cool if you are playing a hunter deck and you have a Scavenging Hyena. Congratulations on the Harrison Jones chef there. Because one of your minions gets hexed and it dies, well, you're going to at least trigger the Scavenging Hyena. Not so good now because, of course, as you're well aware, the Scavenging Hyena does not trigger on enemy minions now. So, just a minor change. And Healing Totem. So, obviously, this is not a card. This is a nerf. It doesn't heal your heroes anymore. It only heals your friendly characters. So, there you go. No heroes. So it's still a good card, but it's still a good totem anyway, but it's not as crazy as it used to be. It was infuriating early game, saying, oh, I can't do anything to the hero. Now you can do something to the hero. So you don't always just have to go directly at the healing totem. You can ignore it and damage the hero, which is not too bad. All right. Biggest buffs going on right here. Gotta be to the priest. Huge changes on the priest end of things. So, we'll start with the minions. The most obvious one, I think, has got to be Northshire Cleric. It's 1 cost now. That's amazing. That's really amazing. So, this, you could play a lot of really great stuff with this. I thought for 2 mana it was a little bit silly, especially considering healing is a bit situational, right? Because you have to heal a minion and it's got to have actually healed some health in order for this to trigger. You can't just cast a heal on something that's already full health to get a draw. That doesn't work that way, so. That's now a lot better, especially if you combo that with the Light Swan, for instance. Speaking of Light Spawn got buffed, which is pretty nice. Light Spawn's now a 5/5 when it spawns, as you can see here, and combos very well with things like Inner Fire. So that's a much better card than it was. I thought that was pretty weak there. Cabal Shadow Priest, which, if I recall correctly, is a 6 cost to them. That's a better card now. They've buffed it by 1 on either side. So it used to be a 3/5, now it's a 4/5. So, actually it used to be a 3/4, sorry. Now it's a 4/5. So that's a bit better. A little bit better. Now, significant changes. A new card. You won't have seen this one. It is Shadow of Death. This is a brand new card. They replaced Greater Heal with this. If I recall. No, actually, never mind. They replaced Fade with this. There's another card called Holy Fire that they replaced Greater Heal with. Shadow of Death. Destroy a minion with an attack of 5 or more. That is a really good card. That is extremely strong removal late game. I love that. That is dangerous. So that's pretty damn good. The other change was to Greater Heal, which no longer exists and is replaced with Holy Fire, which is right here. They actually used the same card art for that, so there you go. But, yeah, Holy Fire. Deal 5 damage, restore 5 health to your hero. It's not bad. So, a bit more direct damage availability here without using Shadow Form and Alchemy Soul Priest, so it's not too bad. Other changes to minions, well, the only minion that's been changed aside from that would actually be the Legendary. If I recall correctly. Prophet Velen, as you can see here. So there is Prophet Velen. Now what he does is he doubles the damage and healing of your spells and hero power. Yeah? So this is now significantly better. It used to be damage and healing, and it's like, oh, well, I don't have many cards that do that. Now it affects your hero power. That is really good, especially comboed with Shadow Form or Alchemy Soul Priest. That would do a huge amount of damage. That is now a much better card. The only other change is to Power Word Shield, if I recall correctly. If I can find the damn thing, which is right there. There we go. So, Power Word Shield now gives a minion +2 health and a card draw. It used to be +3. Now it has card draw in there. So, aside from the whole Thought Steal mechanic and Mind Vision and things like that, you didn't have a huge amount of card draw for the Priest outside of stuff like, say, the Northshire Cleric. Now you got a little bit more. So, that's not too shabby at all. Congratulations on the Lore Walker Show. How many cards is she opening? Jeez. Okay, so that's the Priest. Priest is now significantly improved, as far as I can tell there. Let's go on to the Druid. Let's go and have a look and see what he's got going on for him. So, some minor changes here. Cenarius actually got nerfed, surprisingly, in the sense of the cost. Cenarius used to cost 8, now it costs 9. So evidently they considered Cenarius to be pretty damn powerful. What else? Well, they have actually nerfed Starfall, I believe, quite significantly. It can now only hit enemy minions. It's not all characters. So that's not so great. Bit of a nerf to that. What else have we got? Well, we've got the Ancient of Lore. This is actually rubbish now, in my opinion. I've got to say. healing effects were not that great to begin with. Now the Ancient of Lore is draw 2 cards and restore 5 health. It used to be 8. So that's bad, in my opinion. That's just not a good card at all. Maybe they just wanted to make the healing touch more relevant, but I'm not too keen on that. You can still get 2 cards out of it in a 5/5, but the healing effect is now even less desirable. And a nerf to Savagery as well, I believe. So if we have a look at Savagery, which is around here somewhere. Where'd it go? Where is Savagery? There it is. So as you can see, it's now a 1-cost card. It used to be 3. So what it used to do is it would deal damage equal to your hero's attack to all enemy minions. Now, it's a cheaper card, but it deals damage equal to your hero's attack to a minion. So it allows you to do it without taking a hit, essentially. It also allows you to bypass Taunt. So it's a bit of a different card. I don't know if I would call that a straight-up nerf. It's definitely a bit of more of a mixed bag, but at least it is cheaper. If it was the same cost, it would be pretty bad, but yeah, it's not too shabby now. There were also some changes made to warriors, and most of these are actually buffs, so we can have a look at that. Warriors were in need of that a little bit, I feel. So first thing, a couple of changes to creatures. We had the Cruel Taskmaster, which was a 2-coster. Used to be a 2/1, and you deal 1 damage and give a minion +2 attack. It's now a 2/2. So, much better card to play against things like mages and rogues and druids. Frothing Berserker got a buff as well. I don't even think it actually needed that. I've used this card to massive effect, but now it's a 2/4 instead of a 1/4 by default. So, I guess you can risk playing it a little bit earlier if you don't 100% know that you're going to be able to do damage. Obviously, if you don't actually do the damage to actually get it buffed up, it's a crap card for the cost, but it's better than it was. It used to be a 1/4 for 3, which is a little bit weak, maybe. Okay, Inner Rage has been changed. Now, that is a 0-coster, as you can see. The way that Inner Rage used to work is you would give +2 attack, yeah, and it would go away at the end of the turn. Now it doesn't go away at all. It's persistent. So that's a much stronger card. It's not just a, hey, deal 1 damage and do it for 1 turn. It's +2 attack forever. So that is a much stronger card this time around. Battle Rage. This is way better now. Holy crap, this is way better. It costs slightly more mana, but I feel that doesn't really matter. If you get into the point where you need to play Battle Rage, that 1 mana isn't going to make a difference. Draw a card for each damage character now instead of each damage minion. That means you get a minimum of 2 cards out of this. A minimum. In the worst case scenario. Because it's very, very likely that both heroes will be damaged by the time that you play this card. That is a much more powerful card now. So I like that a lot. And Commanding Shout. That's been, again, it's a bit of a mix because they put 1 mana cost on this, which can kind of suck because this is the kind of thing that you might want to play at the end of playing a bunch of creatures. But as you can see here, you can add the buff here, draw a card. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Not too shabby at all. A little bit extra card draw for the warrior that didn't really have a huge amount. He had Slam, which was a little bit weird in the way that it worked. Then he had Battle Rage, of course, but yeah, that's not too bad. So warriors have got some decent buffs. I am looking forward to playing more Frothing Berserkers, Inner Rages, and nonsense with Battle Rage there. I think that could be very powerful indeed. Now, I was actually lying. There is a change to Paladin. Only 1. Divine Favor has gone up in cost by 1 mana. It used to be 2, now it's 3. And that's it. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that covers everything, actually. Yeah, it does. So there you go. That's everything that's been changed. A fairly in-depth look at it. So now I guess I need to go open some packs. Should we do that? Let's do that. Just before we finish, because I do have a lot of gold, and I can kind of afford to sink at least a little bit. Let us buy more packs. How many packs would you like? Quantity cannot exceed 50. Should we buy 50? Of course we should buy 50. There we go. 50 expert packs for 5,000 gold. There we go. That's probably all I'm going to buy, honestly. I don't play Constructed that much. Everything else I can sink into arenas, but there we go. Let's open 50 packs, shall we? You can now open packs a lot quicker, incidentally, instead of having to drag them all in there. Well, that's not the best start ever. You can just basically press space to skip through them, but you still have to click on the cards, which is kind of annoying. I wish they didn't have that. I guess they want that tactile feel to it. It's like, really? No, I don't think so. Nothing great yet. Am I going to go through 50 packs and not get a single legendary? That would be lousy. The deck of legends may very well be dead forever, guys. I'm sorry. Oh, a golden common. Wonderful. Wow. No epics, no legendaries yet. Disappointing. Disappointing. Nothing good so far. Oh, there we go. There's a legendary. Oh, King Muckler. Thanks. Thanks. Not the best legendary I could have possibly got. Grats on the monkey. What else have we got? Epic. And a rare. Alright, not too bad. Molten Giant. Can be useful, especially in Warlock decks. It's a good card. Oh, another legendary. There we go. Grommash Hellscream. Alright, I might be playing a warrior deck and constructed then, because that is a beast of a card. Look at that monster. There we go. Not too bad. Alright. Let's get some more. Bear in mind, the wipe is done, so there will be no more wipes. These cards will stay with me forever, unless I DE them all, and I probably will. Alright. What else have we got? Give me more legendaries. There's that rare questing adventure I was talking about earlier. Epic and a legendary. Ragnaros the Fire Lord. Very solid legendary in my opinion. Very good. Cool. Cannot complain about that at all. Epic and 2 rares out of that pack. Got a Farsight. Oh, that card is terrible. Absolutely hate that one. Big Game Hunter. Very useful in certain circumstances. Always nice to have one in the deck. There we go. Defias Ringleader. Still OP. Bloodsail Corsair, one of the most useless cards in the game, in my opinion. Not a good card. Hell, if it destroyed a weapon, it would be much better, but then it would actually be OP. We're having a dry spell. This is like me in Vegas with video poker. I'm not okay with that. Stampede and Kodo. Pretty good card. Oh, come on. Hey, there we go. Illidan Storm Rage. Cool. A few more legendaries. I think that's 4 right now? Or 3? Yeah, it's 4. It's going to take me a while to get back up to the status I was at. Nat Pagel, the best legendary. Love that guy. Awesome card. Very, very cool. Golden rare, nice. See what else we got. Ooh, golden epic, very nice. Ooh, look at that. Yeah, they did say they'd added some more animations in, so you're seeing it right there. I love that with the Patient Assassin with the glowing green on it. That's pretty cool. I like that. I still think they need to add another tier, like platinum cards, that maybe do a little dance or whatever. People would. They would go crazy for them, you know it. You could just keep adding tiers of card on, it would be disastrous. For my wallet, at any rate. Very nice. Ah, that's a cool animation on Slime, I like that. Ice Block, one of the more useless epics. Surprised they didn't buff that, because it's pretty bad in my opinion. Let's see what else we got. Divine Favor. Give me more legendaries. Ah, cool. Got my Molten Giant set back. That's always nice. If I ever play Constructor, I like to do Warlock decks, so it's nice to have that. 15 more. How many more legendaries can we get? Counter Spell. Not the best card ever, but it's certainly not the worst. Cold Light Oracles. Yeah, God, those things. Ooh, Golden Lightwell. Even more obnoxious than the regular Lightwell. Very nice. Shield Slam. Yeah, if that attacked a hero, that would be way better, but no. As it stands, it's not that amazing. It's okay. Ancestral Spirit. Oh, holy Wrath. I'm surprised they didn't buff this. It's so terrible. It really is. 5 mana cost, draw a card, deal a damage equal to its cost. It is RNG as hell. It's dreadful. I'm surprised they didn't buff it. Oh, a 3rd Molten Giant. Thanks. Thanks, Blizz. Very much appreciated. I'm going to have to DE that one now. Alchemy Soul Priest. Nothing worse than getting duplicate epics, because they're worth basically nothing. Pyroblast. Alright. Come on, one more legendary. Maybe not. Oh dear. It'll take me so long to get back to my previous status of having ridiculous numbers of legendaries, but... oh well. It'll happen eventually. Maybe when they put more legendaries in the game, I can do that 30 legendary deck. Currently, that's not even possible. Not enough legendaries. 2 more. Ooh, golden epic. Sword of Justice. Very nice. And one more. A second golden Sword of Justice. What the hell is the probability of that one? Well, there we go. Very nice. And now, as you can see in crafting mode, there's your disenchant extra cards button. Ah, DE and epic. Nothing worse than that. Thanks for the dust. Very much appreciated. So now you can craft whatever the hell you wish. In fact, I'm going to craft a card just to kind of show you the process of it. There we go. Pretty much the same as last time. Nothing unusual about that. And that, as I say, is that. So there you go. A very in-depth look at the changes to Hearthstone. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching. There probably won't be any Hearthstone videos over the next few days since I'm at the Escapist Expo, but maybe I'll play some in the hotel. We'll see. I'll see you next time.